Every drummer has a transformative moment when they're playing. It is when the band is doing so well and you can feel everything start to work right. And suddenly you've gone from being in a band to now you're in a different zone. And I call that the drummer's high. You've been there. You know what I'm talking about. Welcome back to Drummer's High, talking about drumming, but drumming from the perspective of drummers being different than most other players in the band, and also how much real fun it is and how much energy and passion goes into what we do. And we're lucky enough to be here with one of the people that I respect very highly. The way he plays moves me all the time, David Garibaldi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming, David.
A pleasure to be here. Thank you. I'm honored.
Well, as I was saying, you know, we're different with the way we play and the way that we feel about things. And as drummers play, and we're with a group, and things are starting to coalesce, and we're bringing it together. And you can feel everything start to work right. And you, not only are you playing, but you're moving around, and suddenly you've gone from being in a band to now you're in a different zone. And I call that the drummer's high. You've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Tell me about one of those moments where it happened to you, and who you were with, and how it happened.
Well, you know, seeing as how I've, you know, with the same band for years, you know, we have this thing we do called the Million Gig March, where, you know, we're always playing somewhere, right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of opportunity, you know, like for that to happen. And it kind of, I think it's kind of a weird thing, but we have kind of a standard that we operate at. So I would say that there are many, many of those high moments. I mean, I can't really, you know, like single them out. For some reason, when we play Jazz Alley in Seattle, that's always good. I have no idea what, maybe it's because they feed us good. I have no idea. But, you know, there's certain venues that kind of where the band just plays in a really relaxed way. Everybody's comfortable. Yoshi's in Oakland is like that. Yep. There's been, you know, lots of different stuff. It's hard to single one of those moments out because I don't really view it like that. It's just kind of this thing that's going all the time, you know.
So you get that feeling all the time.
I do.
Wow, are you lucky? I mean, really, think about that, because there are a lot of players who, as they're playing with a group, they get, things are working well, and yes, it feels great, but they don't get that, whoa, we're in a different place.
Well, I would say that happens a lot. I mean, I'm not saying that it happens every day, but it does happen a lot. And there are moments during the shows when it does that, where it gets, you know, there'll be one or two songs or even one moment in a song that's, you know, that's unbelievable. You know.
Oh, congratulations.
No, that's how I look at it.
That's
I mean,
pretty amazing, man. That's good. That's really good. I envy you that.
Oh.
I'll say, so drummers, we are a different group than most everybody else in the band, especially. There's a group of people that I know that we worked with that were not in the industry who used to say that they always liked seeing drummers and hanging out with drummers because when drummers get together, they give each other a hug, they say, hey, how you doing, talk about everything else, where it doesn't seem to be that same type of interaction with other members of the band between people who play that same type of instrument. Do you have any stories or any observances that you can give that would really explain that or show that the differences that drummers have and how that affects your interaction with the band or even just interactions with other people?
Well, for some reason, I have this saying, you know, once a drummer, always a drummer.
Right.
So I had some, you know, medical issues in the last few years. And so one of my doctors is a drummer. Right.
Yeah.
And so he was the chief of surgery at 2 hospitals in the Bay Area. And so now he's retired. And so what's he doing? He's playing drums.
Good for him.
You know, so, you know, I always tease him, you know, once a drummer, always a drummer, you know. But that, you know, that's just my little observation, you know. Drums is a kind of something that I think once you start doing it, it has a unique pull, you know.
Yeah.
It kind of draws you into it. And it's very communal, you know. There's a big sense of drum community, you know. I don't think you get that with other instruments. Trumpet players seem to have a little. Theirs is more like a secret club. They have a secret handshake or whatever they have, But trumpet players, because we have trumpet players in our band, and they know who is the who in the trumpet world, and they're always hanging out talking about trumpet when they go out to eat dinner. They're with trumpet players, and it's kind of like a drummer. That's a drummer thing.
I've never heard of another instrument having that. Trumpet players is pretty interesting. Can I just give you an aside for a sec?
Sure.
You were saying your doctor was a drummer, or is still. Is a drummer.
Is a drummer.
When my second daughter was being born, we went in for C-section, and as we were there, my wife was tented, and the anesthesiologist, Dr. Block, it's a good name for an anesthesiologist.
Wow, that's weird.
He asked, he said, "Hey, are you part of the cymbal thing?" He said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm a drummer." So as we were standing there talking back and forth about different drummers and different players and the way that they go, my wife had to lean up and say, "I'm having a baby."
Yeah, I understand. I can understand that.
Yeah, sometimes we have to step back and let reality step in. The rest of your band, I'm sure that they have their own little things, their idiosyncrasies. But drummers, I have found, always have something a little bit different that we need to do before we play, the little rituals. Not just warming up, but also, as I said to Rich, like the way Raul Rico had to put the tape on his fingers. It had to be a certain way or it wasn't going to work right. It just, that had to be done. Do you have any strange rituals, certain things that you need to do?
I wouldn't call it a strange ritual, but I need my practice pad.
Specific one?
A specific practice pad that's with my gear,
Okay.
road gear, and Andy, our stage guy, stage tech, he brings it over to the dressing room all the time. It's always there ready for me, and so I have to sit with it for a few minutes or even as long as I can. I'll sit there and I'll just, play, move my hands, but it just helps me focus and get ready for what's to come.
It has to happen.
It does. It does.
As you were growing up, you weren't thinking, I'm going to grow up to be a drummer. But what were the clues that made you start thinking that not only did I want to be a musician, but I have to play drums? What drew you into that?
Well, I wanted to be a trumpet player.
Is this why you're finding fraternity with
It's kind of weird,
trumpet players?
It's kind of weird, yeah. Actually, I like hanging with trumpet players. It's fun. I wanted to be a trumpet player, but when the music teacher came around and asked me what instrument I wanted to play, and I said trumpet, he says, "Well, all the trumpets are gone, so you have to play violin. Here's a violin." And of course, no offense, that sucked.
Yeah, big time.
And so I stopped music for a little while.
Yeah.
And then my parents were always playing music at our house, and there was this really percussive kind of classical piece that they used to play called the saber dance.
Oh yeah, yep.
Right. And for some reason that got me interested in that sound, the sound of drums.
Yeah.
So one day I want to play the drums. So I went and asked the music teacher at school, could I play the drums? And he said, of course, so it got me started doing that. And then when in high school was the first time that I actually played a drum set.
Right. Yep.
Right. And from that moment on, I knew that that was the moment
You were hooked.
of awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a musical family then?
Well, there was always music around. I mean, my mother played piano, by ear and that kind of stuff, and there was always singing, when my aunts, they'd get together and there'd be piano and some people would sing and, the casual little things,
Yeah, but when you decided that I do want to be a musician, you probably didn't get a lot of pushback from your folks then at that point, did you?
My folks were always very supportive. I mean, they never gave me the fallback thing, maybe you should have something else to to do. I'm sure
Right.
that my decision to be a musician, was kind of like, maybe to themselves they said it. But they were very supportive. They let my brother and I kind of pick what we wanted to do, and then, like my father, I remember when I was just finished high school and I had bands,
Yep.
and my father would rent a place for us to play and kind of do the security and take the tickets and help us organize it and all this other stuff. And, so it was very, very supportive, in that.
So did you have a lot of influences from the Bay Area, or were you born and brought up in the Bay Area?
I was.
Okay, so you had a lot of influences that got you into the type of playing that you do now, where you're not just playing 4/4, you're playing some really interesting sounds.
Well, it's always 4/4. That's
Well, I'm
Tower
sorry.
Power music.
Yes,
but
but-
you know, it's just phrasing, as we say.
There we are.
You know. But yeah, the Bay Area is a pretty rich musical, landscape there. You know, so when I was growing up, there was of course, all the great funk music.
Yep.
There was great jazz. There was Latin music. There was classical music. There was then of course all the psychedelic music, all that stuff. The big rock scene that was happening there.
Yep.
So growing up, you just hearing all this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So with Tower, it became sort of the fruit of all of that. We were
Yeah.
just a byproduct, right?
Yep.
So we were just being what we heard growing up.
Did you grow up with a lot of the players who are in Tower Power, or did you all sort of come together as time went on?
I was a little older than them. I was in the military. So when they were starting,
Yep.
right, I was already in the military. So I met them after I got out.
Yeah. What branch were you on?
Air Force.
Ah.
724th Air Force Band.
Oh, you're in the band.
Yeah.
I get halfway through Army training and thought, I really should have joined the Air Force. It's easier. Oh man! So when you're playing, because I love the way that you play. You play with thought. You play with technique. But there's an emotion that comes across in the way that you play. You get to a point where you know what you're going to do, but does emotion take over? Do you feel yourself more of an emotional player, or is it physical? Is it just that energy that comes into you that gets you going, or are you thinking the whole time? Is it a combination of all of this?
I would say it's all of it. It's all of those things. Because of course the drum is a very physical thing, right?
Yeah.
But still, you have to control yourself. And I think if there's too much emotion, then you don't play as well. So it has to be sort of controlled, energy, right? Learn how to take your emotions in different places and kind of relate to sections of songs in certain ways and all of that. So it's kind of it changes all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you come off stage, and you've been playing for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, do you feel spent, or are you still very excited about the day just because you've been playing? Does it energize you, or do you feel yourself, I put it all out there, I have nothing left? How does that come? How do you do that?
I would say for the most part, I have a feeling of always giving it my best. I always have that feeling that because that's kind of the way that I grew up operating. I've learned that way, and that's the way that our band is. We're sort of a self-policing unit. Everybody, comes to play.
Yep.
And so after shows, it usually takes me 2 or 3 hours to kind of come down from a performance.
Emotionally and physically?
I would say more, you just kind of come back to,
come back. Okay.
Come back to your baseline, kind of, in a way,
So you find when you're playing, even though the music can take over, you're in control of what's going on.
Well, I would think yes, of course.
Definitely. Okay. Are you ever, when you're playing, do you ever get self-conscious about anything that you're doing? Or do you just think...
Depends on who's watching.
Really? When you were playing and your folks were watching, was that difficult, or...
No.
No?
I was still too dumb.
So, yeah, full of vinegar?
Yeah.
You didn't care?
I remember we played the NAMM show when they first started having those live performances out in the big open area there, right? So I think we were the first one, right? And so
reasonable.
For weeks after that,
Yep.
I'm getting text messages. I'm getting, emails, and I'd run into people and say, "We saw you there," and it's all, people who are very, who I really respect. People that are real famous musicians, right? And I go, "Oh my God, I'm glad I didn't know you were there,"
Really, you would be other musicians who know what you're doing and have played that. You'd be a little self-conscious in front
Well,
of them.
I guess it all depends. It kind of depends on the story you tell yourself before an event.
Very good.
Right.
Very good. Yep.
So I try to tell myself always the correct story. Go out and enjoy yourself. Pay attention. Keep the bus on the road.
Right. The bus being everybody else, too.
Yeah.
So your instruments, your drums, your cymbals, everything. I know that they are tools, but you look upon them a little bit differently than just tools. They're not just an instrument that's in front of you. They're an extension of you as a musician. Yes.
It becomes that, as you learn to create, you kind of develop a personality, musical personality, and
Right.
a lot of that has to do with even the way your drums are configured and, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started doing clinics, I did a lot of clinics with Roy Burns.
Yep. Yeah.
God bless him.
Yep.
And he taught me a lot about just drums.
Yeah.
Just drums. We talk all the time about drums. And he was such a great guy, had such cool stories. And his thing was that the drums and the cymbals are one instrument, right? And you just have all these different, like a keyboard, and you have all these different, tonalities and timbres and all these other things, right?
Yep.
And I'd never really thought about it that way because, your drums, you're hitting stuff,
Right.
But really, if you think about it as like an instrument that has all these different notes and different pitches, that you create things with all these different sounds, So that sort of changed the way that I looked at some things, creatively.
When you came up to the factory in Canada, the Sabian factory, and you were working first on the groove, the groove ride,
Oh, Jam Master.
Master ride. When you came up and were working on that, were you finding totally different sounds than what you had thought before? And did that change the way that you were playing? This just being able to get new sounds.
Well, it's nice to have custom instruments.
Yep.
I mean, that's
Granted.
really,
Yes.
that's really nice because then it kind of a sound that you imagine or something you wish you had, all of a sudden it's there, So you have this kind of, in your palette of sound, you have this thing now that is really, really cool,
Yeah.
that fits kind of with the way that you visualize and hear music, right? And so when I went up there for that, kind of my homework assignment, I guess, was to think about what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
Can I tell the story?
Please.
Okay, so think about what I wanted. So I, kind of listened, and I always liked that Tony Williams ride sound.
Okay.
I always liked that,
Yep.
So I was looking for something that was in that ballpark,
Yep.
right? I heard a sound like that with Tower of Power, right? The way that I approached drumming with Tower of Power. So Nort Hargrove and Mark Love, they took me in this room with all these different cymbals, right? And I started playing stuff. They wanted me to hear what they had,
Right. Yep.
right? So I'm playing all these different cymbals. And I was looking for a 22-inch ride. That's what we were talking about building, a 22-inch ride with a really nice bell, really nice stick definition, all this other stuff. And I wasn't liking anything that I was hearing. So it just wasn't in my conception of what I thought I wanted to get out of that, right? So we had the two cymbals that are on stands next to each other, two 22-inch ride cymbals. So I just happened to take my sticks and I hit both cymbals together, and I'm thinking, that's the sound. That's it. And I told the guys, Mark and Nora, I said, this is it. And they looked at each other, kind of real puzzled, kind of, oh, wow, And then they went into another room somewhere in, wherever you guys do all your secret stuff.
Not giving that away.
In 30 minutes they came back and they had a cymbal that was the sound of two. This is brilliant, So that's a true story.
And that's happened to you actually a little bit more than that at the factory with these guys, has it not? I mean, you had the ride there, but then you also had the what was the last one? The
Soul Side.
Soul Side ride.
That's the one, the newest one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Was that a similar situation, or was it?
Well, that one I sort of did, like talking to Mark, and it may have been initiated by Darren Phillips at Dub's Drum Basement in Dublin, California.
Really?
Somehow, yeah, he's in this somewhere getting things started.
Okay.
But when it came around to us actually coming up with this, the symbol, Mark was sending me videos of, here's what I got, blah, blah, blah. Tell me what you want. And then I would tell him, and then he'd make up stuff and send me videos, and then they sent me prototypes.
Oh, the
Right?
video.
So I
was-
selected from prototypes. But I was also here, sent me videos of the stuff.
So now, as one of the things I like about the way we do things is that we do it by hand. So there's energy that's being imparted into this instrument. The living metal is still curing over years and goes on. When you're playing it, you're imparting your own energy into it. Are you hearing that the change is happening because of the way you're playing it? Is it starting to change the way either that you play or the way that you hear the cymbals and the drums? Do you hear these changes? And what do you think about those changes in the maturing of an instrument?
This is my personal opinion.
Yep.
Right. But I think that the sounds deepen as you play them. So maybe it's because you're additionally, hammering them. And probably does that
That's not
factor into it?
It does, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Yep.
So I think over time, like I have a cymbal set that I've had for a long, long time.
Yep.
Right. And it seems to, I don't know how can I describe it. It just seems the sounds seem to become more rich.
Right. Yep.
The sounds deepen. Right.
Yeah.
So even like with my drums, over time, they sound better. The wood changes as you play them, and all these things that happen, just like guitars, right?
Sure. Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
so, they changed. Absolutely, the sounds change.
We like to say that it's hand hammered by us, but it's stick hammered by you, right?
That's true. That's true.
So okay, I've got a couple rapid fire questions for
boy.
you, right? Well, you've heard these before. Of the top 3 non-drumming heroes that you have, who are they?
Well, number one would be my dad.
You know what? Rich said the same.
I'd say my dad, because he was a really hardworking, honest, kind person.
Yeah.
And he was very supportive. And I remember I'd get in trouble or do something boneheaded, and he'd always look at me and go, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay." He always tried to settle me down and put a positive spin on a bonehead move I would do. But yeah, my dad, and I don't have a lot of. Yeah, there's another guy. 2 other teachers.
Good.
Teachers that
Yeah.
I had.
Yeah.
My band teacher, Mr. James Campana. He's passed away. High school band teacher, and he was the one that got me pursuing music in a more serious level.
Good for him.
Right. And then
He's a hero of mine now too. Okay. Yeah.
he was a wonderful man. And then my other my college music teacher, Mr. Eugene Graves. He's still alive, and I can't call him Gene. I still call him Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Right. And he was just a positive person, always, mentoring, a mentoring, kind person, smart guy, and, still that way today when I see him.
Very positive.
Yes, very positive influence. So those are 3. There's more, but, those 3 that's right here today.
So definitely not a violin player.
No, there's
But what would be, not even, it doesn't have to be musical, but what would be your second choice of profession if you couldn't play drums? If that was just not even available?
landscaper.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be a trumpet player? I'm kidding.
No, I think landscaping would be kind of cool, to understand like horticulture and that sort of thing. I think it would be interesting.
My mother was way into that. Let's see. And allowed only one rhythm style for the rest of your life, what would that be? You can only play one style.
What I do now.
The funk soul style?
Yeah, because it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
It has its tentacles in many, many different things. They call it something, but really it's, a multi-headed monster in a way, It's very far-reaching. it's influenced by so many different things, to make it what it is. So that's what I would do. I would stay right where I'm at because it's a lot. It's deep.
I'm glad you
It's
would,
rich.
because you're really good at it. Anyway, we've run out of time. Thank you all very much for watching. And David,
Thank you, sir.
what a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much.